What's up, everyone? Episode 1 of the Q&A whilst in quarantine. I hope you're safe. I hope you're inside and hope you're healthy whilst you're watching this video. I'm answering some questions that I asked myself on my Facebook page, and I figured, hey, why not answer it myself and doing it through a video. So today we're going to talk about dream jobs while you were a kid, the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, as well as let's think a little bit about speech writing. So let's jump right into the first question.
What was your dream job when you were a child?
All right, dream job while I was a kid. I cannot lie, I won't lie. I was laser focused on becoming a lifeguard. I think mainly because I watched Baywatch. I really wanted to be, I think it was one of the earlier episodes, Eddie. I liked his hair and everything else. Erica Eleniak, being his girlfriend, also contributed to that, I guess. So which contributed to me swimming for 5 days a week. I was able to over here in Holland, you can go to classes to teach, to learn how to swim. So I started to swimming while I was, 6 or 7, and I got a hang of it. I loved it, and soon, before I knew it, I was swimming 5 days a week, doing different courses, eventually leading up towards, I did it with 3 of my best mates every day. So it eventually led to me having many, if not all, certificates that you could get in swimming school, and also had a certificate to dive while I was 10 or 11. So I was laser focused on becoming a lifeguard up until I was 12, and then pretty much the wheels came off the wagon. Then puberty or whatever, I started thinking about a lot of other things other than become a swimmer, a lifeguard. So I think back a lot to those times, and if ever there's something that I'm very proud of having accomplished, is having accomplished all those certificates. I still have them, luckily, and even though it's been many years ago, I'm still proud of it, of having them still. And I still love to swim. So in that sense, it has also still some benefits. So right now, other than that, I don't know. In terms of, I wanted to become an architect at one point, because I love to draw. Drawing was something that I loved to do, in grammar school, high school as well. And eventually did not do anything with it, mostly also because I'm a little bit colorblind, I guess. So becoming a pilot was out of the question, and art class became a problem for me as well, because I had to do a lot of the coloring stuff. But yeah, architect, first being a lifeguard, second being an architect. Those were the things that I really wanted to become when I was a kid. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Did not wanted to become a astronaut or yeah, as far as I can remember, only those 2 things came up.
Why isn't sovereignty in the UN Declaration?
All right, so why isn't sovereignty in the Declaration? Quick answer and a short answer is because self-determination is. At least for me, and this is just my point of view, how I look at things, is that the right to self-determination, Article 3, for example, it covers it all. Because in my perspective, from my point of view, sovereignty is a product or an outcome of the self-determination process. So when Indigenous peoples determine to go into the determination process, and sovereignty is an outcome of that. So that's why I think that sovereignty is not in the Declaration, even though when there is a reference to sovereignty, it is in Article 46 about territorial integrity and national sovereignty of states, blah, blah, blah. That's the only reference, but I'm not looking to that reference at all. When it comes to sovereignty, specifically Article 3, and then if you look at the Declaration from a holistic point of view, Article 3, 18, like they're all these articles that contribute to sovereignty, they contribute to self-determination. Free from consent is also a form of self-determination. So in a way, sovereignty, if you read it from an Indigenous point of view, like if you interpret it in the way that it should be interpreted, it's not in there, because the Article 3 is in there.
Should I know the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples by heart before I go to the UN?
All right, so this is a question I think that a lot of people struggle with once they go for the first time into the UN. For example, the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues, like what is some reading that I should do beforehand, or what document should I be intimate with, so that I can actually interact with the UN, be it the Permanent Forum, be it the expert mechanism. I think first and foremost, what you should know or do before you go to a UN meeting is know what your purpose is. Why are you going? Because I see it as an investment. Going to the UN is like an investment. So you need to have a clear and direct. You need to have a purpose to go into the UN. Otherwise, you spend 2 weeks spending money on food, accommodation, travels, and everything else. For what? So you do need to be able to measure your travels at the end with something that you can have actually achieved something. So then that is the number one. In terms of reading material, the one thing that these people should do, and most of them do not do, is reading the mandate of for example, the Permanent Forum or the expert mechanism. I see too many statements that are not in line with the theme, or not in line with the mandate of the Permanent Forum, for example. So read the mandate. It tells you what a UN body that you're going to interact with can and cannot do. So you need to know that before you draft any statement, because it is useless to draft a statement, for example, saying, well, there are human rights violations happening on the ground, and that's why we call on the Permanent Forum to call on the Secretary General or the Security Council to send in UN peacekeepers to our community or to our region. Even though everyone in the room wants that as well, wishes that would happen, it is not within the mandate of the Permanent Forum or the expert mechanism. So read it very carefully. There's a lot of documentation out there, like how to interact with the Permanent Forum or the expert mechanism or the Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Read their mandate, what it can, what it cannot do. And so you have a clear picture of what you can achieve in New York or in Geneva. Also, I think, in that sense, it is also very important to know the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. The Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Oh, shit. It's very important to know that document as well. You don't need to know it by heart, as in like every single article from the top of your head. You don't need to know that, but you do need to have read it and know how it works, what articles are important for you, for the case that you're trying to make, and need to be able to use articles, like link situations to situations that are happening on the ground in your community, link it to those articles. And I think that is important. So knowing documents by heart, not necessarily important. You do need to have it at your fingertips though. So know the mandate of the declaration, the mandate of the meeting that you're going to, the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, and of course the purpose. You need to have a purpose to go to the UN. Otherwise, and if you have all those three, then you can like do a lot of things in those 2 weeks or in the 1 week when you're in Geneva.
What is your best way to structure a 3-minute speech at the UN?
I think this is a very interesting question because I see a lot of people struggling with that once they sign up for a UN meeting and they want to draft a statement, of course, because it's you feel kind of powerless if you're in a meeting, you're sitting there and you're just listening to all those statements, and you do want to be able to deliver something once you go home, that you said that you actually delivered a statement, that you can talk to your elders, talk to your organization, that you delivered a statement at the UN. So people are struggling with like, well, how do I draft a statement? There are many courses out there like how to draft a statement, how to draft speeches, but speeches and statements are totally different things. And I think for Indigenous peoples, like we need to find a middle ground. At least that's my perspective. That is my philosophy behind it. What if you look at statements that are given at the General Assembly or other statements that are totally different from the statements that you're about to present at the Permanent Forum. Permanent Forum requires a recommendation. Expert mechanism also wants recommendations from you. So it is very important that you structure your statement in a way that it not only covers your situation, but also an analysis and also a recommendation, what the Permanent Forum or the expert mechanism can do, or should do, or what it should do. So it's very important that you structure your statement in a way, because you only have 3 minutes, and I highly recommend you stick to those 3 minutes. Actually, stick to 2 minutes. Draft a statement that you can deliver in 2 minutes, so you can read at a slower pace. So once you have 3 minutes, draft one for 2 minutes. That's usually a page and a quarter maybe, and you can read it at a slower pace. I've seen a lot of statements drafted, and I go over them. I'm like, how are you going to present that in only 3 minutes? You cannot do that. That's practically impossible. So they'll tell you like, well, then I'll talk faster. The problem is if you talk faster, then interpreters cannot keep up with you, and they'll either things get lost in translation, or they'll tell the chair that they cannot keep up, or that you should talk slower, or the chair will tell you to do so. So in a way, it disrupts your flow and disrupts your message. So the best thing you can do is craft a statement that is within 2 minutes, covers all the necessary bases. You cannot include all the historical human rights violations of your peoples in your 3-minute statements. Impossible. So you should try to stick to the basics of it. So basically, when I start drafting a statement, or I teach others to draft a statement, I go through 3 segments, right? Why is it important? Why am I here? Why are we going to address this particular agenda item? So that's like a paragraph or so. And then it's like how the Permanent Forum or the NGOs can provide advice or interact or intervene, or within its mandate can do whatever it can do, and then what you expect of it. So those are usually the recommendations. It is very important that you provide some sort of an analysis in those statements, that You've analyzed the current situation, the human rights situation, or the indigenous rights situation in your community or in a national context, and where the gaps are, where the voids are, and that you recommend to the Perm Forum that they do a study, or NGOs to do a study on some measures or something that they could do. I think if you structure those in a 2-minute statement, it is that would cover the most of it. What you can also do is to sign up for different statements. Of course, you have different agenda items, so you can. This whole historical injustices that are occurring, you can divide it up into like different smaller statements, so that you can actually cover it within the 2 minutes. In 4 or 5 different agenda items. Do not go into overtime. Time yourself, read it at a regular pace, and if you are beyond the 2 minutes, start rephrasing, start cutting words. Every word needs to deserve its place in that statement. Why am I saying that? Too many statements, especially at the Perm Forum, they are given, they are presented, and too many speakers go into overtime. And the chair is very reluctant, most of the chairs at least, very reluctant to cut people off. But at the end of it all is what you see is that if everyone goes into overtime, at the end of the list, people do not get to present their statements. People who also have the same right as you to present their statements and have traveled or have saved money to go to New York for 2 weeks, waiting for those 2.5 minutes. So those 2.5 minutes are gold for each and every one of us. So if you want to talk about solidarity, talk about indigenous rights movement as a movement, we all need to be wary of that. We need to stick to those 2.5 minutes. And I see too many people, so not just newbies, but also people that have been going to the Perm Forum or the Action Mechanism for years, do the same thing. And it cringes me. I don't know if that's a word, but I feel sorry for the people that are on number 25, 26, or 27 that do not get the chance to present their statement. So keep that in mind as well. What you can also do is draft a 2-minute statement and then attach, once you upload it, attach a longer background paper to it. You only read a 2-minute statement, but you attach a longer background statement document to it, so that when, for example, DOSIP asks a copy of your statement, that you can give them the whole package so that it gets recorded. And like nowadays, social media and everything else, you can use that to your advantage as well. So read your statement as a 3-minute one or 2-minute one, and then record a little bit of background, where you read your statement, you step outside, and then boom, all right, this statement that I just read, and this is the background behind it. Like, this is why we're doing this, blah, 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 etc., etc., etc. That's something that you can do as well, So it just do not, as I urge upon you to start with why you're addressing this agenda item, why your indigenous peoples or your community or your organization is addressing this agenda item. Then you segue into the second paragraph into like how this agenda item or how the Perm Forum or the expert mechanism can contribute to the human rights situation on the ground, how it can help, and what it should do. So that's the what section, and that's a recommendation. And then somewhere in the how, you provide some sort of an analysis. It's basic. That's the basic thing that I would recommend you do once you draft a statement for the Perm Forum or the expert mechanism. That's the first thing that comes into my mind when it comes to drafting statements. So those were quickly my thoughts on some questions that I asked on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn to other people, and I just gave the answers myself before I just asked the question, and was very interested into what people said. If you have any thoughts on this, please drop me a line, comment, send me a message or a text. I definitely appreciate the feedback, and I will answer some more questions and while we're still in quarantine. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay inside.